All right. Hello and welcome to this episode of the BC coding stream. I think I've talked about this before already, but I want to look at how transactions work in BC. I hope the stream is working again. Everything's like, if something's not working, feel free to send me a message. I'm trying to monitor all the chats, so yeah, let's get started. I need to link the stream before. When I first discovered this, and I really was shocked about this. When I learned how transactions actually work in BC, and that we can really use this, like, mess stuff up quite a bit. So yeah, if you didn't watch that, I will put a link somewhere so you can have a look at this as well. Oh, hi Mo, thanks for the confirmation. Let's get started. So in order to really test this, I will create a log table first, just to see and to monitor whether we have the database transactions behave like we would expect. So bear with me while I create this. Shouldn't take just a minute. I don't think we really need what am I doing here? Let's do an auto increment primary key. Don't need really caption, and then maybe just a message or something. Message. Yeah, text 250 is perfectly fine. All right. I feel like I need to disable the linter because it would be annoying, but let's see how far we get. All right, so we have the log table. Let's create a list page for this as well. Log list, and then we can default this, and then we can also put actions and stuff, so that will be easier for testing. A list page, and then we need repeater. Oh man, I still remember when we first switched from CL to AL, how it was a struggle to get all those structures up and running and get used to this format. And now it comes so naturally. I never would have expected this to become that easy, actually. All right. Yeah, we still have missing captions, that's fine. And then let's go with test first, and we'll change this in a second, just okay. And there we go with the page ID, and let's see what we get. Oh, I'll probably want to change the order of the entries. That would be helpful to see the newest ones at the top. Okay, there we have it, the simplest log list ever invented. Let's do, what's that called? Something like view, I think. No. Yeah, well, on the page, right? Yeah, there we go. And order descending, just like this. Okay, so ordering works. Now, let's maybe also create like a function. Insert log. Yeah, Copilot, you are drunk. No, what? I think just like this is perfectly fine. And we don't need any of that. So need to make this promoted, but okay. Actually, promoted, and then action ref, and then it's test1 promoted. Does anyone come up with better names for the promoted actions other than just the actual action name and then underscore promoted? Because I don't usually. Okay, now there we go. So this is, oh, they changed that default icon. Interesting. All right, so this is the most simple one, and this is the basic transaction I think everyone knows about. Whenever, like now I'm not in a transaction, I'm just like reading stuff, and I think I intentionally didn't say write transaction yet because I'm not sure whether we are just looking at write transactions or if we're also like caring about read transactions, like in general a transaction. But I feel like it's the focus lies more on the writing side of things. So now I'm not in a write transaction. As soon as I click on that button, I am kind of initiating a transaction. But as soon as I do not write or anything, like there are certain things that transform this into a write transaction. Yeah, I'm not sure where I wanted to go with that. So as soon as I click, I initiate a new transaction. Now, and the basic commands basically would be I could like throw an error, some error, and then I would revert that transaction. So when we're talking about database transactions and also like SQL Server commands, there's like something like, I think they do revert. I don't know. I would need to look it up. But now I get the error and I do not see the line inserted, and that's where I want to start with. So let's actually get started with some procedures. Do we need procedures, or let's see how far we get with just actions. So we have the base transaction. I want to create more actions so we actually preserve this. So this would be base transaction without like this. Now this is with error, and Copilot is really helping here. Why is it complaining about? Oh, it. Okay, there we go. So those are those two cases. Now we can do something like a commit with commit and error. Now if I do a commit here, I commit my transaction and the error would only roll back up until that commit. So everything that happened before will be saved, and yeah, this is the only word there really is. It will be committed to the database. Yeah, I didn't promote this, I know. Come on. Just need to keep an eye on various chats here. Also Twitter notifications just in case. Okay, so we had the base transactions and I need to create a clear as well. So now this is what we had before, base transactions with error, so it doesn't get inserted. And now this is, I'm learning stuff again. Every time I stream something and I want to explain something, I'm learning new stuff myself. Okay, so what did we just see? The commit saved that message and it's with commit and error, just for the next time. And then it still showed the error message, but it didn't revert the database write we did. But apparently, even if we revert transactions, we still have the auto increment persist. So this is something I didn't know either. Interesting to know. 2 and 3 didn't happen because there were errors. So it incremented, but it didn't write into the database. Okay, so I think up until here, everyone can still follow. Now let's create a code unit. And this is where the fun begins. Insert lock. We can just do like in on run is perfectly fine, and we can probably just do how is it, like table number, lock table, and then we can do just like insert lock, something like this. Doesn't need to be too fancy. And if there are any questions, again, I'm monitoring chats and everything. Feel free to ask anything. If I should explain something in more detail, or if I'm too fast or too slow, just let me know. And then I will just answer whatever it is. Let's see. Now let's do if Codeunit.Run. Well, now let's do first Codeunit.Run. And we don't do this. We will do Codeunit insert log. And let's switch out the promoted ones and continue with this, so we don't use that much space in the promoted bar. Now let's do Codeunit.Run, and as you would expect, same thing happens. I just inserted a new line basically, because this is what happens. I wouldn't even need the record. It doesn't matter. It works. Now, what happens if I do this? Now, error after Codeunit.Run. Question: will that record be persisted, or will it not be persisted? This, and I would really like to get some answers in chats now, because this is really where I was surprised. Let's see. Oh, need to promote. Let's see if anyone wants to take a shot. No, I mean, sorry, I need to read chat message. Okay. Yeah. Watching people play is different than playing it yourself. Definitely. Messages on LinkedIn work, but yeah, I need to keep that open. YouTube is easier for me to, because it's like it lets you pop up the chat, so I can have them in separate windows. But there was a question on LinkedIn. Yeah, the entry number. I've missed that question actually. Sorry. The entry number is auto increment, and that seems to not care about whether a transaction is rolled back or not. So it will still always increment over and over again. So if you need to make sure that the number doesn't have gaps, you probably need to use a number series. Now, let's go back to this and run Codeunit.Run with error. We get the error after Codeunit.Run. And the line is not inserted. So far, so good. Let's take it one step further. Codeunit with an if in front of it. And let's create one without error again. Just do something, I don't care. Right, so. And promote again. Also interesting that this name of the promoted action reference doesn't show up at all. Okay, so again, and the message is the same because it's the same code unit. It just inserts. Now, copy and paste again, and I'm keeping this code because I will afterwards upload it to GitHub as usual. So then you can play around with it. Now the idea is with this one, I'm running this somewhere in my code. It's like some condition checking, and then afterwards, like several lines after, like it doesn't matter, later, not in the then part, not related to the if Codeunit.Run, there will be an error reverting the transaction. This is just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. This is the scenario. Just some random error happening afterwards. If Codeunit.Run with error. So there's the error after Codeunit.Run, and it's still inserted. And this is where I lost it when I learned this. What this means is that whenever you execute run code within that if Codeunit.Run thing, it's handling it as its own transaction. Now, let's do something else. If Codeunit.Run in write transaction. Let's create the bigger picture here. What if we do rec log insert log like this? And experienced developers will already start to scream at me because this is something you shouldn't do, or you cannot do, basically. If Codeunit.Run in write transaction. Oh, they changed the error message. They actually changed the error message. That's interesting. Oh, there it is. Okay. They changed it, so further assistance. This is the error message, and there is the detailed error message. So they're not showing this to the user anymore. So we cannot do Codeunit.Run or any of the modals or stuff with when we are currently in a write transaction. And I mean, the reason, if we saw this before, the reason is obvious. When we cannot be in a write transaction because the if Codeunit.Run is its own write transaction, and the write transaction before needs to be finished in order to start a new one. Yeah, so what do we need to do in this case? We would need to do a commit, and then both lines will be inserted, because this is again what the example we had before. And then if Codeunit.Run will be inserted again. Second. All right. So there is one other thing or test, basically. This is okay. So this doesn't work. So we need a new action. Let's copy this one again, and now it gets a little bit more complicated. We probably need to start using functions. If Codeunit.Run error behavior. I'm not sure if you didn't play around with this already. Let me explain what error behavior does. So procedure insert log or test insert log, something like this. Not very creative, but it's late already. So error behavior, and then we want to do error behavior not collect. Is this the only thing that... No, can't be the only thing. Commit behavior, sorry. Error behavior. Commit behavior. So there's actually those two. Okay, so this is what I tried before. Let me just fix this because it's wrong. Commit behavior. What I tried was, I knew about commit behavior, never tried it, but I knew about it. Let's actually change this because it's annoying me that the semicolon is breaking over to the next line all the time. Okay, and now we have a warning. Isn't better? Not really, but okay. Now, all right, so what this is supposed to do. Okay, let's first test the error behavior in general. So basic with commit behavior. So this would be ignore commits. So there we go. This is the ignore commits, and let's do rec.insert log before commit. commit error. Something like this. So the idea is, and I'm not even sure if it works on that level directly, or if we would need to go one function deeper. But the idea is, whenever you set commit behavior, the idea is that whatever code gets executed within the scope of this function. So if you call a function and this one calls another function and again and again and again, no matter how deep you go, as long as you're underneath in the scope of this function, all the commits will be ignored. So let's find out if it also applies for the function itself, or if we would need to create another function underneath. Remove those. Continue with the 9th test. So let's see. No new line. Let's delete all of those just to be sure. So it works. When I remove this, just as a test, we would expect the line to be inserted. There we go. Now with this, the commit is just ignored. Delete, yes. There you go. There is a commit, but it doesn't execute. So the idea is, I think, the commit behavior, that you can say that, well, in this function, I need to be sure that nothing will be committed to the database, and I'm able to roll back everything that was written to the database. Let's create the same test with error on commits. This is a little bit more drastic, I would say. Where's my copilot? Probably confused why I need so many actions. Let's see, with commit behavior. Oh, I need to ignore error. Error on commits. Here, ignore. And then here we have error. All right. Let's make sure there are no questions that I missed. Doesn't seem so. All right. So ignore. This is error. Commit is prohibited in this current scope. The operation cannot continue. Please contact your system administrator. Let's see if there are any more details. There are not. So we have the call stack. This is good. But apart from that, nothing. And we can see line 3 in the function would be 1, 2, 3, the commit. So it really errors on the commit. This is, again, that way you can really prevent anything. Like you do not want to have commits, but you do not even want to have functions that have commits in them. Now let's create the same stuff. Now we just learned that when you do this, there is a commit. At the end of the Codeunit.Run, which is just an implicit commit. Let's try the same. Like with this, ignore commits if Codeunit.Run, and then what do we need? We need the error, and we need that okay Codeunit.Run. Now we can do 2 tests in one. No, that's absolutely not what I want. Let's just copy paste. Basic, this would be if Codeunit.Run, if gone, if Codeunit.Run, and then we have ignore commits if Codeunit.Run. Here we have error if Codeunit.Run. That's safe. Let's try. So if Codeunit.Run with commit behavior ignore. After commit. Oh, it doesn't ignore the commit because there is no commit in code. No, it doesn't work like that. So when you set the commit behavior to ignore and you call, like imagine you call some code from the base app, and there are plenty of if Codeunit.Run lines in the base app. It can happen that the database will be modified persistent, even though you throw an error afterwards. And the scenario where I came across this was that I wanted to do an import, just importing some stuff. And whenever there are errors, I want to be sure that everything will be rolled back. So I'm not in a scenario where I modify the database state at all when there was an error. And yeah, I found out that this is tricky. So yeah, so ignore doesn't work. Let's see if error works actually. No, it doesn't. It doesn't error on in the end of the Codeunit.Run. So now what do you do if you really need to be able to verify that there is nothing happening in that code? It seems like the only way to really find out would be something like this. So let's imagine we want to do a secure import. We do some logic and we call some base function, call third-party code, and then in the end, if we encounter an error, we throw an error, something went wrong. And we want to be sure that everything gets rolled back. Now what we can do is we can set this thing to commit behavior error. We want to find out if there is anything going on. We don't want to ignore. Now, if we start a write transaction intentionally, just to start the write transaction. Now immediately we go into write transaction. And then, now this works, this gets reverted. But now imagine if there would be somewhere in that code a Codeunit.Run. If Codeunit.Run. We tried this before. Whenever we are in a write transaction, this is not allowed. Unless there is a commit before. Like if they commit the transaction intentionally, then they can do the if Codeunit.Run. But since we are saying that we do not allow commits, we prevent this. So this is like a half solution to the problem. because it just tells you that, well, you cannot run the third-party code while making sure that everything gets rolled back. There is just no way to achieve this. But at least it doesn't get inserted into the database in production without you knowing this. So this way you can find out if you need to adjust your code, but it doesn't make the whole scenario just work. There is another thing I tried, and I would need to probably check on GitHub real quick. Just bear with me 1 second. I need to find the repository. Didn't prepare this, unfortunately. Analyze transactions. Oh, I created another repository for this before. So let's see. So what I did here, I can link the video, and I went through this in detail, and this contains the whole discovery. But what I did was I've run this in a custom test runner. I've created a custom test runner with procedure isolation, and then I can set an interface into my test function, and the interface, let's see, where is the interface? Interface. There we go. It's just one procedure. So I can this code unit. Now I need to find this. Implements the runner. No, this uses the runner. So let's see, there's an inner code unit, and here is an outer code unit, and the outer code unit will set the interface, and there is the conditional runner interface and probably a conditional runner code unit. Oh, this is the error logger. Where there has to be one code unit which actually implements the conditional runner. There we go. And here is basically it's just implementing this, and I used another template to just execute this, but it basically lets you really do this, because test code units can do exactly this. They can ignore commits. So I'm not sure how exactly this works on the database level, but I imagine that they're just starting an outer transaction, which they then can roll back somehow. I've read a little bit about this, but I'm really not a database expert in that matter. But yeah, so this is, I would probably just push this to the existing repository. That would probably make the most sense. This is basically what I'm left with, and now I'm not sure how I should feel about this actually, because I always thought that transactions in Business Central are pretty reliable, and now I found out that you can really easily escape those transactions, and write stuff to the database persistently and not caring about errors that might come after. So I mean, the good news is when you want to do logging, just delegate the modify to a different code unit and you're fine. Also, you're not starting a write transaction, I think, so it's also another cool test, I think. Let's do double Codeunit.Run. Come on. Come on. This way, and now. Works. So you're not starting a write transaction either. When you use this construct, whenever you use the return value from you, so you don't need to use if Codeunit.Run, you can also like catch it into a variable or do something like whenever you do something with it, you're running this stuff in its own transaction, and you're not starting like a write transaction in your user transaction. So this is really cool. So you can really delegate the modified to the different to Codeunit.Run, and yeah, for example, I want to preserve all the examples. Sorry, delegate insert. Yeah, but not like this. Delegated insert. Oh, yeah, sorry. Like this. And then in a new code unit. Daily. Now, if we would be in a write transaction, we couldn't do this 2 times, right? Let's see. Promoted again. Good thing that this is so fast. Doesn't even work. Why doesn't it work? Okay, so there was a question. So it's best to have the insert and modified in separate code units. No, this is not my point. When you want to do lock inserts, like if you want to write lock the database, then you can use separate code units in order to have them persist, and then afterwards still show the error message to the user, revert everything else, but the lock will be there. The lock will not be reverted by that error. That's what I'm saying. If that's your use case, where you want to intentionally write something to the database, although the transaction will be rolled back, then you can use if Codeunit.Run to do so. But my main point of this stream is I want to raise awareness, because I thought I knew pretty much about the language, and I didn't know this. I didn't know that this construct will run in its own transactions. So you really need to be careful when using this to know about the fact that your changes to the database will be persistent. This is really the message. And now I want to find out why this doesn't work. Oh, I already debugged this, so let's see. So the rec is there. Let's go in here. Globals. I have globals. Fields. Also there. Now I'm confused. This is even by reference. So it should work. Why doesn't it? Yeah, I really need to clear that. So this is okay. Ooh. Okay, false. So the second one didn't even work because I already initialized this and the record is there. Okay. So yeah, if I would have said, this is another caveat when you're using auto increments. The auto increment just does only work if you if the field is 0. If it's anything else, it doesn't work and it tries to reinsert the same thing, the same record. So when you're doing like in loops inserting, you need to make sure to reset the primary key with the auto increment to 0 after every insert you do. So let's try again. So not sure why this didn't work the first on first try. Actually, it should have. It's just in the second one. The second one works, the first one doesn't. Okay. Yeah, we are working on the rec, and if I'm selecting a record here, the first one errors. Okay, so too many shenanigans going on here. All right, so now this works. So this is something you can do. You can just delegate the insert operation itself into an if Codeunit.Run statement basically, and then you're escaping the write transactions in your own. This is so stupid. Yeah, this way you can insert stuff into the database without having it getting rolled back. I feel like the commit behavior should account for that actually. But if Microsoft would change that, it'd probably be a breaking change, so yeah, difficult topic. Let me think if there's anything else with this. Yeah, well, for folks that didn't join the other session, let me just show you how I actually learned about this. Procedure, fancy, insert. Yeah, maybe not. Fancy, insert, like this. No, the line number question, would setting the line number on the sales order line work the same way? No, it doesn't, because the line number is not auto increment. It's just an integer field which is incremented manually by 10,000 at a time. So no, I feel your pain. I have the same, but no, it doesn't. It's just for auto increments. Yeah, and the page handles the line number automatically by having the auto split key, I think, is the property on the page. And then it will, if the last field on the primary key fields is an integer, it will then do the exact same thing like the 10,000s, and when you insert in between, it will split it out. So auto split key, there it is. This is doing this for pages, and there is just no way to do the same for tables. I know that there is a procedure somewhere, and I will need to refer this to others that know those libraries better than I do. But there is a function in one of those libraries, maybe it's on some of the tables, I don't know really, but it mimics the same behavior that auto-split key has. So you can really insert stuff in between, like lines in between, and you get the 10,000 increment and everything. But yeah, if you need that, go search for it. It has to be somewhere. But if you just insert new lines at the bottom, just add 10,000 and you're good. This is probably the easiest way. Okay, so the reason why I even found out about this is TryFunctions. And TryFunctions seem to work the same way like if Codeunit.Run does. So if I do not handle the return, it just does nothing basically. And if I now handle the return, it will probably just do nothing right now. Yeah. Because it returns false, okay, will be false, and it's just because I had an error happening in that thing, in the TryFunction. Now, with log, insert, whatever, just different name. Now let's do reg insert log inside TryFunction. Yeah, I need to call that, right? Action TryFunction with log insert. Nice one, right? So let's find out. Let's see if we even get any information. Actually. What time is it? No, this is not recent. So yeah, not even information in whatever log this is. Let's try something, because this is something I didn't try either. What if I just don't do the return? Service temporary unavailable. So I crashed the entire service. I crashed the entire container. Now I don't know how long it will take, because those are Packer containers. They usually take a moment to boot up. So we might need to improvise here a little bit right now. Okay, I didn't expect that I would crash the entire container with this. So what happened? Let's actually search for documentation on TryFunctions. Yeah, I really love what Bing is crazy. All right, so TryFunction. Where is the documentation I'm searching? Database write transaction try method. So this is what I wanted to show, because changes made in the database by try method aren't rolled back. You shouldn't include database write transactions within a try method. By default, business central server configuration prevents you from doing this if a try method contains a database write transaction, the runtime error occurs. Well, it doesn't state that the entire thing crashes, but okay. Now let's try this with a sandbox. Give me 1 second, because let's see how the container is doing. The container is still starting, so we will need to change gears here a little bit. Let me pull this over onto my second screen for a second here, and then this doesn't. I need to grab the right bar. So let me open up my sandbox, and then I will show you how this same, like I won't change anything in the code. I never changed that. How that behaves within a sandbox. So alright, so this is configured now. Let's add the sandbox. This is called dev.us. Let's see if that works. No, not attach. Launch. And publish them. US. Okay, I probably need to specify the tenant ID then. And right. I'm still authenticated. That's crazy. Yeah, runtime. This is. Oh, the container is already there again. Okay, so, but still, sandbox is something I need to show you. Okay, it opened in the wrong browser. One more time, sandbox. There we go. So this is the sandbox, and now of course did not have this configured correctly. So this is the regular TryFunction. And this is with insert. Did you notice something? It didn't crash. And this is really funny because the documentation just doesn't state that in sandboxes this actually works. And now I need to pull up all the chat windows again because I needed to use the second screen. So there we go again. In sandboxes, this is allowed. So if you do development against sandboxes, you might end up doing stuff like this. You wouldn't notice until you run this against Docker containers in pipelines, whatever, on premise, and then everything falls apart. Now, documentation said, and I closed this by accident, so I can't show you again, but documentation said that this is not rolled back either. So let's do this. Let's see. I need to change the startup page ID. Okay, so remove this line just to be sure. Or after TryFunction. I think I need to do pull request on the documentation. So it is rolled back. So this is, I don't know. So you get a runtime error when you try this on premise. It works in sandboxes. Other than that, I don't know. Let's do another test just because I think it matters. Let's test this again, and then I think we tested everything. And I still didn't change the page ID. Log. What? Oh no, now it's... Did I just not correctly interpret what I was seeing before? So now it gets rolled back. Okay, no. Okay. It doesn't get inserted no matter what. So within a try function, inserting doesn't it doesn't behave like they claim it behaves. Yes, the error rolls back the right, although documentation said it wouldn't. So it doesn't behave exactly like an if Codeunit.Run, for that matter. But important is that this is not possible. You cannot do inserts in try functions, and I would expect that Microsoft at some point will change this behavior in sandboxes as well. But not really topic of what I wanted to talk about. But this is how I found out that I need to do something. I started to rewrite code that was written like this, and I was looking into if Codeunit.Run, and then found out that it doesn't behave the same way, because if I would mimic the same stuff with Codeunit.Run like we did before, the line would get or end up being created in the database, although I had an error afterwards. I hope that makes sense somehow. And not sure. I feel like I wanted to do something else before the container crashed, but I'm not sure. I feel like this really concludes the list of stuff I can show about transactions. Well, I mean, you can always do like start session and run your code unit within a child session, but there will probably be enough content for another stream. We have errors, we have commits. Yeah, I mean, oh no, I remember. I remember what I wanted to show. So let's remove those so I don't break the container again. Let's close out this one. Yes. And use this one again. Nope. So we have a few things here. We can check whether we are in the right transaction. So this is cool stuff. I never used that actually. Is that transaction? Like this, and then the current transaction type. I'm not sure what that means. And we get Copilot. Current transaction type. Let's just play around with this a little bit, and then we'll close out the stream. First publish always takes a minute. Oh, there we go. So we are not in a write transaction, and current transaction type update no logs. What the hell? What are the options? Okay. Bros, this is a read-only transactions. Modifications can occur within the transaction. All read operations are performed with read uncommitted locking. Therefore, no logs are added, and logs that are added by other sessions are not honored. This means that the transactions may read uncommitted data. Report. Report option maps to one of the basic options. This enables a report to use the most concurrent read-only form of data access for the connected server. When you use Dynamics Business Central Database Server, it maps to snapshot, and when you use SQL Server, it maps to browse. Snapshot. This is a read-only transactions. Modifications can occur within the transactions. All read operations are performed with repeatable read locking. Therefore, shared logs are added to all the data that are maintained until the end of the transactions. This prevents other transactions from modifying any rows that have been read by the current transactions. Update. This is an upgrades transactions. Modifications can occur within all repeatable read until the table is either modified by write transactions or locked with the lock table method. From this point forward, all read operations are performed with update locking and update no logs. This is an update transactions. Modifications can occur within the transactions. All read operations are performed with read uncommitted locking. From this point until the end of transactions, all read operations are performed with update locking. This transaction type improves concurrency of all tables that uses. Okay, interesting. Let's mess around with this. This seems fun. Okay. I think the stream will go on for a little bit. Transaction type browse. Let's see what this can do. So we found out that the default transaction type seems to be that last one, that last option. Now, what happens? Current transaction type. What is current execution mode? I'm learning so much. No idea what this does. Current transaction type. Browse. Now let's read again. What's this supposed to do? I'm not sure why this is a read-only transactions. Modifications can occur within the transaction. I'm not sure the sense of this, but let's find out. What happens if we do this? What? Where do I have bug? Oh, here. Okay. This is interesting. Okay, so we had like, when we set commit behavior to error, then we can prevent commits. With the transaction type setting it to browse, we can prevent database operations entirely. That's fun. That's cool. Okay, let's try the other ones. Which would be the next one? Report. Report is, I don't know, report. The most concurrent one, whichever, like it's either browse or snapshot. So we can skip this one. So let's do snapshot. Let's do snapshot. Snapshot. What does snapshot do? This is also read-only transactions, but we do repeatable read. Shared logs are added on all data that are maintained until the end of the transaction. This prevents other transactions from modifying any rows that have been read by the current transaction. Now, I would be interesting to see, and we can give that a shot as well. Let's first run this, and I'm expecting the same behavior like we saw before. Snapshot. Yep. Same behavior. I just want to remove that again so I can do faster publish. So we cannot do enough, but we do repeatable read. So transaction type browse is basically just saying it's the default behavior, like we're always seeing, we're always reading by default with read uncommitted. But we're saying by this line, we're just saying this transaction's no writes whatsoever. This is saying, this is changing the way we read data. So I want to elaborate on this a little bit, because yeah, I'm a little bit confused because this says repeatable read. And when we do set isolation, when we say read isolation level, oh, there is also repeatable read. Guarantees that rows read will stay consistent during the entirety of the current transaction. Does not allow reading of uncommitted data. Only allows for reads committed data, but does not guarantee that rows read will stay consistent throughout the entirety of the transaction. Okay, so we can change the default read behavior from read uncommitted all the way to repeatable read by using snapshot. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is a great thing and what would be the use cases for this. I would have liked to change this to read committed in between, like not being so drastic. But I mean, there are probably use cases. Would also be interesting to see if the base app ever used that. I will probably create log weights pretty much with this. But I cannot write. It's a read-only transaction, as it says. And I can prevent to read uncommitted data. Okay, so I won't fiddle around with this so much because now I understand what it does. I didn't remember that we had the repeatable read in here. And then what was the last one that we had? Update and update no logs. This was the default one, I think, right? Let's see what this, what documentation says about this. Okay, so the next transaction that starts when you're using Microsoft SQL Server. So this is so old that there are still okay. Determines the extent of locking that's performed on data in SQL Server table and indexes. Also determines whether modifications to data can occur within the transaction. The following basic transaction types are available. Yep. The report transaction type maps to one of the other basic transaction types. For more information about this, the current act does not affect the transaction type. You must set the transaction type before transaction starts, which occurs at the first database call in a trigger. Okay, so that means what I really stated at the beginning, that when you click an action and there is no data access whatsoever, you're not starting a transaction at all. So you're starting a transaction when the database call happens, the first. If you set the current transaction type to a less isolated transaction behavior, for example, if you try to change an update to change an update transaction to browse transaction, the method call is ignored. If you try to change the current transaction type to a more isolated transaction behavior, for example, browse to update, you will receive an error message. Okay, interesting. Okay, after commit, you can set a new transaction type and change it again if it is required. Okay, and I also wanted to check this. Oh, you can set those on XML ports and reports as property. That's also interesting. And this is the default transaction type if you have not specified a type. Okay. And it's basically you have the choice between reading uncommitted or repeatable read, but read only, or writing with the same behavior. So as far as I can see, this is the same. Like update no logs is like browse but with writing, and update is like snapshot but with writing. All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so I won't fiddle around with this much more than this. But it's interesting to be able to specify that my transaction, no writes whatsoever. So browse would be the one you're probably gonna use. Okay, yeah, and what I had before, if, where was it? Here is the right transaction. You can just check whether you are in the right transaction before you call the if Codeunit.Run. So that way you can prevent that error from happening and then commit if you need to before. This is probably the use case for this function. All right, so as I said before, this will end up on GitHub. maybe as a separate repository, maybe not. I'm not sure yet. But I will put the link into the description on YouTube afterwards, and I'll also find the other recordings, the other videos I did before on that topic, so you can have a look at those if you didn't do so already. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. At least it helped me a lot to go through those one by one and just try them out and see how this behaves. So yeah, I hope you had a good time. I had. See you on the next stream. Have a good day or good evening. Bye.